And welcome to another edition of the New Sports Outlaws. Daniel, how you doing today?
Doing well, doing well. It was a good weekend. How about yourself?
It'd be a lot better if our Yankees didn't keep screwing us over late, but I guess we'll open up with that. Yankees only take 2 of 3 from Detroit. They finish up 3-3 with the Lions. I said Lions again. The Tigers and the White Sox.
Detroit.
And that I think, in my opinion, they lose a valuable chance to gain some ground on Baltimore. And what's your assessment?
Yeah, lost 2 or 3. I know Detroit's not the Detroit of old, where they're absolutely terrible. I know they're around 500. I think they're only a few games under, but they've pretty much tanked the season. They have all their young guys in their lineup. We definitely needed to take that one because the Orioles lost 2 out of 3 to the Red Sox. So we could have stayed one game up on them. Instead, we're back to tied. Um, and it was the offense was a struggle. All series, we only scored 6 runs in the 3 games. You only scored 2 runs to Detroit, 1 run. We didn't even have an RBI until that 10th inning last night when DJ had an RBI. It was 1-0. I know Detroit had their ace on the mound. I know Skubal is really good. He's supposed to be the Cy Young this year, but guys score more than a run against the
Yeah,
Tigers.
you kind of obviously, you think you can give him a pass for yesterday because of Skubal being such a good pitcher, maybe the best pitcher in the AL, maybe the Cy Young. But the offense isn't there. But to me, that is not the main story. The main story is what we've been probably talking about more than anything else, I think, with this Yankee team is that the bullpen is very suspect. And Clay Holmes is not a closer of a team that it shouldn't be a closer, at least in my opinion, of a team that could end up with the best record in Major League Baseball, could end up with the second best record in Major League Baseball, or third best record. So I think he will cost us games on in the back end of the season here and in the playoffs. And I get that we should score more than 1 run, especially against teams like that. But when you get to the playoffs, you're gonna have games where 2-1, 3-2, and you have to be able to trust that the bullpen's going to close it down, and I don't trust Clay Holmes. I get that they try to make excuses and say, "Hey, he's a ground ball pitcher," and there's he blew 10 games, but out of those 10 games, the Yankees came back and won 3 of them, and then out of the other 7 games, at least 2 or 3 of them he lost because of little ground balls that just found holes. It's enough's enough, though. I've watched us lose enough games that we shouldn't have lost with him on the mound.
Yeah, I agreed. It seems like with Holmes, um, he doesn't have that strikeout stuff. He doesn't have that one pitch. I know he has an improved slider, but it seems like with him, if he's really on, then he gets those weak ground balls that get to hit. It's like he hits those 20-footers that somehow they get on for. But then when he's not on, his sinker's terrible. They just hit the crap out of him.
Yep.
And when you have 2 outs, and I believe it was a guy named Josh or Jace Young, the rookie for Detroit, who was up with 2 outs, and I think he only had like one hit in his career. You got to get it, and I get it. I've tried to be nice on Holmes, but it's one of those times where he's kind of. But we don't have anybody else. Who else are going to march out there? We got Mark Leiter, and Mark Leiter seems like so far he's not the answer. So I know Kane Lee's been okay, and Weaver's been pretty good.
Yep.
But I don't know where we turned. It was a struggle to watch the game yesterday. We didn't even get an RBI until on a pass ball. Labor Torres on a pass ball, and yeah, it was a struggle. And we got an important series this week. We got the Guardians, who have
Well,
basically the next. Go ahead. Yeah.
we're
Go
going to
ahead.
talk about the Mets. And as I'm pointing behind me, because my Alexa's behind me, somewhere around the Yankee dumpster fire. And the Mets are beating the Orioles right now for us. So that'll be a big help. But my question to you was going to be, and you brought up Weaver, are the Yankees better suited to look at Clay Holmes as maybe not the quote-unquote closer, but maybe the guy that comes in when you need a ground ball, comes in against maybe a big hitter that is susceptible to the ground ball. Maybe when you need a double play. I'm not saying for one out, but maybe it's the seventh inning with one out and there's a man on and you bring him in and he pitches that to that one batter, and then if he gets it the double play there, then you can maybe get the eighth inning from him, and then look at other guys like Weaver or Cousins, who has when his slider, it's like a slider type pitch. When that pitch is on, he looks filthy. Or do you go with a route like Clark Schmidt is on? Clark Schmidt is on his way back. Do you go with a route maybe just throwing him right into the bullpen and relying on him to be an arm? Or do you put Heel back there because you're worried about his innings? I think Heel's the second best pitcher on this team. I still think he's got to be the second in a line of a playoff start. But any of those guys, I'd be more willing to try any of those guys in a ninth inning role over Clay, and maybe use Clay in a different role.
Heel is an interesting one. They're not going to do it. I think he was an interesting one. I know they're trying to watch his innings, but then they came out recently said that it's not a big deal because he had never pitched as many innings before. I just think the thing with Holmes is Boone has to have a short leash with him. Just like it's not like, all right, it's been three batters, maybe there's first and second or something like that, and like, all right, maybe he'll just get through it. Maybe he'll like, all right, he's our closer, so we got to like let him finish it. I just think when he gets into trouble, you need to have Weaver up, Cousins up, somebody up. Doesn't even really matter. I mean, it matters, but like we can't trust him to like, all right, he's definitely going to get this next one.
Yeah.
If he goes to three batters and he's already had like two on or something with one out or something like that, I think he needs to come out.
Yeah, I
Just
totally agree.
because, yeah, that's kind of
No,
what I got to say about
I
that.
totally agree. That's why I at least want to bring up the possibility of what if he's the not, I don't want to say seventh or eighth inning guy. I want to say the high leverage guy, because then you can give him a little more wiggle room, because like, all right, well, now we're losing, but at least the game's not over. You're putting him out there and it's like, hey, if you don't get these three outs, we're going to lose. So it's so definite, and I feel like there's probably a better use for him. I know somebody on the radio today, I don't remember who it was, I would give credit, but I know somebody on the radio today said something about that's why maybe Ryan Cashman should have been more active, not at the trade deadline because the prices were insane, but in the offseason, knowing this was a win it all type of year, go out and get somebody for the bullpen so you can have used Clay Holmes. I think it was actually Evan on WFAN saying that he had this argument with Sean Marash that's why the Yankees should have been more in on Josh Hader, because then that would have allowed you to let Clay be either the eighth inning guy or the we need a double play type guy, which I think would fit him better for how he pitches.
I think they were in on Hader a little bit until Houston, I think, just blew him out of the water with that contract.
Yep.
From what I remember. I'm not sure how Hader's doing stats wise. I'm assuming he's doing pretty well or better than Holmes. I mean, everyone's doing better than Holmes, it seems like. But
Leads
yeah,
league.
that's something that's kind of hindsight's 2020 there, and now it's just kind of nothing we can do, and we just gotta hope some guys come back from injury. I know we have some bullpen guys that are still coming back from injury, and
Yeah.
we'll see from there.
So, a quick pivot from a team who's blowing games to a team who has a Hawktua girl throwing out first pitches for them. They're related. If you know, you know. So the Mets. We're not going to spend too much time on the Mets. But the question I had for you was: are they going to have enough juice left? I mean, hell, we want them to sweep this series that they're in right now. I think they're winning 3-1 going into the seventh inning. They got Baltimore for 3. They got the Padres. They got the Diamondbacks until they get a little lighter on their schedule, which is the White Sox. But I mean, these 3 series are going to determine their season, in my opinion, because they're 2 games out of a wild card spot right now. Padres are ahead of them, Diamondbacks are ahead of them, and the Braves are ahead of them, and they play 2 of those 3 teams this week. So
Kind of took the words out of my mouth. That was Padres Diamondback series. Yeah, those are the first 2 wild card teams, and um, I would say they. I mean, what do we have? About 40 games left, roughly. They're 2 games out. From the Braves, uh, I don't want to say they can't just lose these series. I'll just say 3-3 is okay for them for now. They just can't get blown out. I know they have the Braves, I think, towards the end of the year that
Yeah, they definitely have
They're
the
being
Braves
very
for at least
consistent.
three more games. Yeah,
Yeah, I know that maybe the last week of the something like that. The Braves one is more important. I know that's like 3 or 4 games with the Padres and the Diamondbacks, but they can't fall off the roller coaster. And I think that's kind of what this team has been. I know after that Hawk Tua game that everyone was kind of jumping off the bandwagon because they lost that game because I think they were up 5-0 on the Athletics, and the Athletics came back and won. And everyone on the radio was just going crazy. Season's over, blah, 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 blah. There were still only 3 games, I think, at the time. Or maybe it was still 2, but then they ended up winning yesterday. Or actually, they almost swept the Marlins. They should have swept the Marlins.
they should have. Yeah,
Um, and they ended up winning 2 out of 3 still with them. I think they're a roller coaster. I think they'll finish around 500 still. They keep going up, going down. They don't have that guy, but they're still good enough. They're in that kind of mediocrity range.
yeah. My prediction is they probably just missed the playoffs. You got to give them credit though. At one point, they were 11 under 500. They're going to finish above 500. I just think that they don't have enough juice. I don't think they'll have enough juice to catch the Braves. Braves, for the most part, have been good all year. They had a little spell a month or so ago where they were falling off, maybe 2 months ago. But I believe that they will have enough to beat out the Mets and hold on to that last wild card spot. And you said that the Mets had that Hawk Tua night, so that leads me to the NFL. And one of the headlines that has come across the desk for NFL is Tua and Flores really didn't seem to like each other. That broke today. What'd you think about that when you saw that?
Um, Kind of surprised. I kind of thought that Flores was a player, at least from what I've read in kind of this player circles, more of a player's coach. And it seemed like his players liked him. He just always had his issues with management and the front office. And I remember there was a big thing with the owner, and they went through that whole thing. I think it's been a couple of years already, 3 years maybe, something like that by now. Um, so it was kind of surprising to hear Tua come out and just say that. Um, and then to hear Mike McDaniel just kind of the opposite of it. So it was good for Tua, but just for Tua to bring that out was really interesting.
Yeah, yep. And I mean, our friend Rocco, who obviously is a huge Dolphin fan, says he thinks it's because Flores wanted Herbert coming out because he was the coach down there when Herbert and Tua were drafted. So that was something that he thinks that is rooted in the reason why Flores didn't like Tua and was hard on Tua. Um, Okay, for talking about quarterbacks, let's stay with quarterbacks. Gardner Minshew named the starter in Las Vegas.
Las Vegas.
Josh Jaden Daniels named the starter for the Commanders. So what do we think there? I think they're both good calls,
Um,
but
yeah, kind of expected, especially Jaden Daniels. He was the number 2 pick. I don't even know who their backup is over there. Do you even know who their
it's not Sam
backup
Howell
is?
anymore. I think he went to Seattle, right?
No, Howell's not there anymore. I don't know, but it was expected. Jaden Daniels seems like he has a pretty good. I watched a tiny bit of their preseason. Seems like he's got a pretty good command of the offense. Minshew, I think, is kind of expected too, just because I know I talked about in the last pod on the cast that in terms of him having more of an arm, he can sling it out there for Devontae. I think it's pretty expected, and yeah. What about you?
Yeah. Well, I honestly, obviously, Daniels, you expected. I can't even off the top of my head tell you who the backup quarterback is. You would have assumed him didn't taken as high as he was. He would start for them from week one. Minshew, I thought all along Minshew would be the starter. We saw Aiden O'Connell last year. Really not much there. I mean, is Gardner Minshew ever going to be a stud in this league? No. But you can win games with Gardner Minshew. And the way that team rallied behind Antonio Pierce last year as their coach, you would think give Devontae the best chance he can to make a difference on the outside. So we'll see what happens there. I don't think they're that good of a team to begin with, but they'll probably be scrappy and solid. They won't quit. Some other battles we got going on. I know Tomlin today said something about the quarterback battle being an incomplete study. Well, it's because Russ just came back. So
Um, I think it was. I don't know if it was telling, but I think it was. Trying to think of the nice word for it, but they played their whole game with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, who are pretty two good established quarterbacks in the league. and they scored 3 points
Yeah.
against mostly backups in Buffalo. Um, I think I don't know who that says. I don't know if it's an OC problem, if it's Fields Wilson problem, but for them being one's a Super Bowl winning quarterback, one was a top 10 pick, something like whatever it was a few years back in Justin Fields. Um, and I think it's a kind of I don't know if it's again I don't know if it's a problem, but they scored 3 points in a preseason game against a bunch of second string, third string, fourth string people who won't even be playing football in a couple of weeks. I think it's kind of
Yeah. I think it's scary because I think Russ. I mean, up to the last game, Fields had looked decent because Russ was on the shelf. I think Russ looking a lot like he did in Denver, and not even last year because he actually wasn't terrible last year, but Denver the year before is a scary sight. I think he's done. I think Fields is the more athletic quarterback there, but I think they'll go. I think ultimately Tomlin will go with the guy who's going to give him less risk, and I
I
think that's going to be
I agree.
Russ.
Yeah, I agree. I think they'll give him the first few weeks, and if it doesn't go well, they'll go right to Justin Fields just because. But I definitely think Fields will definitely be the better option, especially for the deep ball with Pickens they got out there.
And over to New England with the SS that quarterback situation is Drake May, Jacoby Brissett, and the kid Milton from Tennessee. Milton's looked good, but he's been playing against second and third stringers. Uh, the reports are May hasn't been that great in camp. Do they give him some time to learn the offense and get acclimated, and they start Brissett? Um, I don't know. New dynasty, new regime out there. So
I kind of think it's better. I'm not sure what they're going to do. I think it's better for them to start Brissett just because I think we're anticipating New England's not going to be good at all. I think they're actually projected to have the worst record in the league. I'm pretty sure, or like over under on FanDuel's like 3.5 or 4.5. I'll say 3.5, 4.5 wins. I think for
yeah,
them. Um, so to put Drake May into that fire and just to say, oh, there you go, kid, go learn when you really don't have any too much to protect you. I think that would be detrimental to his
yeah,
growth.
I 100% agree. I know when we go over probably next week or the week after, we'll do our podcast on our predictions for the NFL. I have the Patriots losing the most games and getting the number one pick in the NFL draft. That's my prediction for them. So nothing I've seen so far in this preseason has changed my mind. Something that has changed my mind. As old as Bo Nix is, I didn't think he was going to look as impressive as he has. And I think he's out of the quarterbacks that we saw come out of the draft. I expected maybe the least from him. Not to be disrespectful, but I think I expected the least from him, and he looks like he's very ready to play.
Yeah, I think he fell into a nice situation with Sean Payton over there. Um, he's Sean Payton's a quarterback's guy, and that's been his MO in the league for literally ever. And I think he'll tailor his offense around Bo Nix's strengths. And seems like he's doing well so far. I think he's pretty much in line to be the starter, considering how he's been playing. Um, I know Zach Wilson's been terrible, and I forget who the other guy is
Did him,
there. Who is it?
did him.
Oh, Stids. Yeah.
Real stiff competition there. Zach Wilson and
Yeah. I
Jared
mean,
Stidham.
yeah. I don't. Yeah, I don't see how. I mean, if Bo Nix continues to show them that he can play and he's ready, put him out there. But again, I don't think they're going to be that great either. So it depends on how they want to do it. If they want to put the veteran in there just to kind of take all the hits and then put Bo Nix out there, but looking
Yeah.
good so far.
A couple things I don't think we talked about from our last podcast, especially when we covered football. McCarthy's out for the year. JJ looked good in his first preseason game, but had knee issue. He's done for the season. Justin Herbert's got a plantar fascia injury. They say he should be back soon, though. Puka's knee is banged up. Hollywood Brown's shoulder, and CMC's calf. Outside JJ, are any of the other four injuries worrisome to you, or especially looking towards fantasy? Is it something you're worried about going into drafts for us?
I know a lot of people that have the first pick in their drafts are going to be worried about CMC, just because of the history when he was in Carolina. He hasn't gotten injured really in San Francisco yet, at least for a long period of time. I know he was injured actually a couple of weeks last year, towards the end of last year, but um, he. I know people are going to be worried about him, and I guess they kind of should be, considering it's the number one pick in fantasy.
Madden
But I think
curse.
he'd be the most kind of worrisome amongst that group.
Yeah, and the Madden curse, obviously. So if you stuck around this long to watch us and spend the 20 minutes with us about baseball and the NFL, we have a bunch of fantasy stuff that's been dropping and will drop as we get closer and closer to the NFL season. We will check back in with you guys for a prediction show as well. And we appreciate everyone that watches. Please leave us comments, argue with our takes, because we want to argue back. It's what makes this awesome. Danny, have a good night.
You too, buddy.
Later.